if you look at the economic ties between Nigeria and Germany, it's come a long way since independence. You know, we've had reasons to do businesses together. And this time around, there's a part that's been, you know, being pushed forward by the president and by the German government, talking about a gas deal worth about $500 million. You know, in recent times, the president has been clamoring for the need to have foreign direct investment into Nigeria. You and I know the impact of that on the economy. It has been clamoring for that in recent times. And the good news is now the German government is coming on board with a partnership with the Nigerian government, looking at the energy sector. When it comes to gas reserves, Nigeria is blessed. Now how to maximize it is the question. And with this kind of deal, one is hoping that the resources that we have in terms of energy, in terms of renewable energy and gas deals can be maximized towards having a proper economic development for Nigeria. Let me start with you. This kind of economic ties, what's your take on this? What do you think will be the impact of the economy?
Well, it's again to say to Mr. President that is doing well, so far so good. Every travel that the president has made in recent time, you find that it's not just a jamboree. There's something that will always follow it to come, and this is for me very, very heartwarming to see that he was not just making promises during the campaigns. I remember in one of those town hall meetings, and he was saying that, look, a lot of things that happened. The Ukrainian-Russian war made countries like Saudi Arabia to make so much money. And because we were not with long foresight, we didn't benefit from it. And he had wished that 20 years before then that Nigeria had connected its gas pipeline to reach Europe. Nigeria would have been a great beneficiary of that crisis that was created by the war between Russia and Ukraine. And now the president is not just talking it, he's walking his talk, making a very serious move for this partnership between LNG and Skills Energy in Germany, and which is of course resulting into this deal that is expected to take off in 2026, when the first gas will be supplied from Nigeria to Germany. That's heartwarming, because number one, is going to be a great stimulant on the economy. I read earlier today that the CEO of Union Bank was so excited about that relationship that is coming. And you can imagine in the heat of all this forest challenge, and we are receiving such things into the economy, it will really stimulate a whole lot in the macroeconomic environment. So that for me is quite good. And it's also projected by energy that if this does happen, about 1.3 tons of gas that is emitted annually from Nigeria would have been converted into wealth. And this is real, another blessing that is coming from this kind of deal. So it's not just about the gas alone. I'm seeing government saying that apart from getting money, we are getting cleaner environment. And of course, the Niger Delta, of course, will be better for it in terms of flaring of gas and the problem that come with the processing and the drilling of crude. So I find it quite encouraging, and it's a hope for the millions of Nigeria. You can imagine what that would take. A lot of engineers will be employed. And of course, plenty of people will be added to the formal economy of employment, taking off some people from the streets. And then, of course, good life for some people. All this put together is a plus for Nigeria. And I think it's also a plus for Germany, too, who is also going to benefit from Nigeria gas.
Yes, when we talked about trade, we talked about finding the right partners for trade, and then this is very good that it's not just for you to be trading with people. It has to be a win-win situation for both trading partners, and that is what this is all about. So it's not people just say want to trade with you, and at the end of the day, you're doing more trade with them than they are doing with you. You're pushing more money out into their own economy than money is coming into your economy. So if this is happening, then it is good. It is intended to secure a significant portion of the $10 billion estimated annual ship charter markets in the country. So that's a good one. And I like the fact that the minister is trying to allay the fears of local players, because sometimes when partnerships like this happen, you find that local players are sometimes jittery. What's happening? Are they taking the market out of our hands, you know? So what will happen to us? So it's going to create more job opportunities and expand the sector. So it's a good one.
You know, a few days ago we talked about the impact of global trade, and our guest talked about the significance, which is exactly what is playing now. It's going to play out with this kind of a partnership. You can't, because it's a global world, you know, it's a global arena, and you have to strategically look at who you're partnering with, who you're doing businesses with. And for Nigeria to have a part with Germany, that's commendable. Not that we just like to commend the president, you know, as someone would figure, okay, virtually every of his policy, you're giving him kudos for that. But it's also important to understand that when someone is coming up with a good initiative, it's laudable. And then what is now expected, like Doctor said, is to back it up with the right actions, with the right plans, so that it becomes a reality. So I'm expecting in months or a few weeks to come, you know, excessive plans of how this is going to translate into productivity, how it's going to help the economy. $500 million is not a joke, you know, gas deal. We have the manpower, we have the resources. Nigeria is blessed. It's just for us to be able to tap the right resources with the right manpower and then with the right policy, and then we'll get the right result. I'm happy when it comes to our gas sector, we have the right laws, you know, the right legal framework to guide all this. And that's why it's going to be a challenge for international players to come into the scene. So let's hope to see.
That we also must also be very, very conscious of the way we deal with issues. I've always said the role of government is to facilitate trade between nations so that you can create prosperity in the environment. And that's what citizens actually benefit from. Yesterday I had a cause to even have to write a comment on the National Assembly, who are having plenary sessions with camera on their faces saying that Abuja is not safe. And that was quite not good, because it was the marketing. And you see your president on the one breath is saying, bring your money into our economy. And the other organ of government that is supposed to actually be complementing what the government is doing is having plenary and talking about how unsafe, that if Abuja is not safe, which other place in Abuja, in Nigeria can be safe. Now, this can be demotivating for foreign investors, and I think we must be very, careful the way we play politics, because for me, I don't think that if there are even issues in security sector, these people are well placed and they can place a call across to the people concerned without really bringing it to the fore of the television. Because this is issue. People are working hard to see how foreigners come to help your economy. Because there's a symbiotic relationship between insecurity and poverty. We all know that it's because there's not much money in the economy, and that's why the insecurity is very high. Young men, young women who are very, very active and they want to do things. And we saw that it was part of even the selling point of Mr. President, that we have a vibrant and intelligent young people who will be a plus to this economy. So we cannot demonize our environment and be hoping that people are going to bring in investment into this climb. Now, the more we demonize it and the more investments care, the more the insecurity we are going to have. And I think what we should actually focus on as a nation is to be speaking to issues that can create prosperity and take people away from crime, rather than amplifying crime itself.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you watch things like that, you're wondering why such complaints will be coming from that kind of quarter, I mean the National Assembly. Now, ordinarily, one would think, oh, it's the truth, let's say it. But you can't be complaining the way the layman or or the man on the street is complaining when you are in a position of authority, at least to some level. Now, like it also has said, if this is taken to the security authorities and say, this is what we have noticed, there's more power from them to push it and say, let's ensure Abuja is safe. So if you, as a rep or a senator, is telling me, let's assume I'm watching at home, that Abuja is not safe. So me in Lagos, what should I do? Yeah. What should I do?
It was quite embarrassing for me as a person, and I was looking and I said, look, why security matters are not discussed in the open? They are private thing, because as you're discussing it in the open, the people who are also responsible for this crime, they're also listening to you.
And they say it sometimes.
You don't do your war strategy in the front of television. You go to the back end and look at what are the real issues. Sit down with the executives, sit down with these people, and then have an understanding and say, this is what is happening to our nation. This is not good enough. We don't want people to hear this. And then, of course, we work our plan to see how to deal with it. But when you take this thing to the front of the camera, because we are living in a small global village, that everybody is seeing every other person. So we must not demarket ourselves just because we want to gain some credit. There are a lot of things to be done in Nigeria. There are some rules that are so old that needs to be reviewed. We need to work hard to see how we can even rejig our constitution to reflect the yearnings of the people. These should be the things that will be of interest to that arm of government, rather than dwell on the issue as if people are sleeping and they are not doing anything about it.
No, what I find even a bit appalling is the strength with which they say it. And they also say it in a way as if we are helpless. When you, with all the security guards around you, are crying out and say, Abuja is not safe, what should the person who doesn't have that to do? So it's not enough to say things like that and pay lip service to them. It should be more of what are they doing, or what kind of pressure are they putting on security forces to ensure that every part of the country is secure. Well, it shouldn't be just for people to come out or to say things outside that makes people even fear more, because when you put people in panic mode, the tendency that they would even fall prey to some of the crime antics of the people who perpetrate crime in the country is very high. So if, for instance, I wanted to travel to Abuja and I'm not very familiar with that area, that gives me some kind of scare and make me want to change my plan depending on what I want to go there to do. So I think if the president, like Joshua said, is the first person who is marketing Nigeria, every one of us do the work. Do the work. First of all, before coming out to cry. Even if you want to cry, there's a way you cry. If the father of the house is crying, there is no food in this house, there is no food in this house, what do you expect the child at home to do, or how do you expect the child to feel?
Anyway, maybe from another angle, that doesn't erase the fact that Nigeria is contending with security issues and it has to be tackled.
No doubt about that, but it's the way we go about it.
Every country in the world has security problem.
You need to understand that these are representatives of the people,
yes,
and they are at a forum where they feel they can pick the issue the way it is.
No, but you see,
there are committees for every issue.
There are people who are involved. They are people. They are the representatives of the people.
Nobody is having that in that at all.
They needed to bring it to the fore for people who are concerned to be able to get a picture.
You see, but what I'm saying is that the National Assembly is driven by committees.
There are committees for every issue.
There are committee on the army, there are committee on the navy, there is committee on the police, and there are chairmen on these committees. We don't need to put this thing in the front burner. Why are they not talking about they are even earning in the front burner as a matter of national issues that every Nigeria is concerned about, that even their representatives are the people they are representing? You see, this is just deliberate. What nations do is to protect and project an image of themselves as being secure. And you see the energy with which the American people is trying to fight one man over the Capitol Hill January 6th occurrence. Up to now, they have not finished to paint a picture that America is a safe place, and this thing has never happened before. Nobody is going to allow it to happen. But this is what they are doing, and they put this thing to the quarters where it belongs. There's no country in the world without security problem. None one to mention. So our own is, there are even countries that are worse off than us. Countries that are actually in worse situation. I don't think that their parliament goes up there to say, oh, this is it. They are meeting in Abuja. If Abuja is not safe, would they be in the chambers? So this is the issue. We should not over glorify evil and make the poor man on the street to lose hope. They, like Blessing has said, are in a better position to offer hope to the hopeless. And they should not look as if they are helpless.
All right, I'm sure if you ask them, they'll have reasons for what they're doing. All right, let's leave it there. Let's move on to the next story, which has to do with the blue economy. You know, the minister, Adigboyega Oyetola, says the federal government is set to re-establish a national shipping line through a public-private partnership arrangement. All right. This initiative, according to him, is to secure a significant portion of the estimated $10 billion annual cheap charter market in the country. Now, the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Oyetola, the former governor of Osun State, is coming up with a new initiative. It is not new anyway. We used to have the national shipping line, which was the Nigerian national shipping line in the 50s. You know, it became moribund around in the 90s, maybe around 95 and all that. So now it's coming up with a new initiative to resurrect this shipping line called National Shipping Line. We once had stories, you know, that trade the issue of Nigerian hair, you know, has to do with the issue of aircraft and all that. But now it's coming to the issue of the marine sector now. You know, the minister thinks this is the next thing Nigeria needs to do. This time around, it's not going to be a government thing. It's going to be a PPP, public-private, you know, partnership. There are some people who argue that Nigeria does not need a national ship line, going by the experience that we've had in the past. But some feel, okay, we can do things differently now that we know better, we have a better system, and now that the federal government is thinking of tapping resources inherent in the ocean, you know, talking about the blue economy, maybe this is going to be the best time to look into this direction. Idauza, what do you think? Do we need a new national shipping line?
Well, it's all kind of, how am I going to put it now? Government working out and looking at where to actually appropriate values from. Yeah, but like you have said in the narrative, you see, we've had it before and it didn't work. Even when some...
It didn't work to an extent. It was the glory of, you know, the African market then. But to an extent...
Well, you see, that is quite subjective when you say it was working. We knew why national assets failed. And not just a shipping line. Obasanjo himself was even saying that when he was leaving, he lived about 21 in that fleet. And all of them were sold out because we got to that point that they said, oh, our people can't manage and we can't run public enterprise. So what it means is that it will be better off in the hands of the private people. Now the question is that those who bought it, what did they do with it? And I think we must be able to learn from history. One of the things that I feel that this government can do is to see how much we can invest in stakeholders' engagement. Because we really need a change of values. Because we know the things that are making us not to prosper, that are making us not to focus on excellence. A simple mediocrity that is glorified by politics. Because when you politicize economic issues or development issues, they become a liability to the nation. So this is the issue. And if this is the issue, what are the plans that we are going to put on the ground that to see this run? We're still waiting to see NLPC, even after privatization, make profit, like other national oil companies are doing elsewhere. So these are the issues Because we are not going to import human beings from the moon to run this process. They are going to still be people with our skin who is going to drive this process. So I really wish that the Honorable Minister is actually also putting this into considerations. And then, of course, first of all, secure a buy-in from the ministry staff, the core civil servants in the ministry, and they have a buy-in. Like Professor Collins says in his book, Good to Great, the starting point of any journey from goodness to greatness is who? Who is going to go with us on this journey? Now, once you can answer the question of who, then the what and the how become very simplified. But I think Nigeria is still grappling with the question of who. And until we deal with that issue of who is going with us on this journey, the question of what and how to go about it will still be something that will be a steady hydrant.
Don't you think the question who could include the minister himself?
Yeah, but yes, he needs a lot of people who are going to buy into his thinking. The minister is not a problem. And ministers have never been a problem. It's those who are going to implement what is being said that are issues. That everybody come to that point where we have an understanding that, look, this is about our nation, a nation that is near comatose, that needs to be resurrected, and people will know that this is not business as usual, and we are going to make all the necessary sacrifice to ensure this time we don't fail. I keep saying to public officers anywhere I meet them, and they are ashamed when they look at what God has given to us, that is given to them to manage, and the result we are getting. And they see what other nations are doing, even smaller in terms of what God has blessed us. Don't they feel ashamed? Or they just comfortable sending their children abroad to go and read? Is that all that they need in life? And they can't leave legacy for these children to be even proud of it. Because when we are talking about Nigeria, if we are not running well, it's the civil service that are getting us where we are at the moment. So we need them to have a quicker buy-in into the programs of government. And that is the only way it can succeed. Because if you have a civil service that is sick, there's no amount of investment that you are going to put in there that you will really get the value for it. $10 billion is a beautiful figure, but it needs a lot of work and sacrifice to make it realizable.
Sometimes when we clamor for certain things, I would want to liken this new shipping line that the minister wants Nigeria to have with the Nigerian Air in the aviation industry. The question, first of all, is why do we want it? What went wrong with the one we had before? So it would be what went wrong with Nigeria Airways in the aviation industry. And now, why do we want Nigeria Air? So why do we want international shipping line? What happened with the one we had before? So until we are able to pick out the issues and bring out new strategies that will make this one work, and they're not just strategies on paper, they're practicable, then I think it's just like, okay, we had this before, let's have it again. But if it's something that the private sector can handle, why not create the enabling environment for them to run it?
You know, but I think the real issue is that, you see, you are seeing other people make progress. That's the real question here. Take, for example, you know, I think it was sometime in November, Joe Biden was crying in the US that the shipping companies of Europe, they are creating so much tension in the world after COVID-19, that the profit that they have made in 1 year, that since the companies were founded, they have never made those profits before. So when you look at the value that is coming to that industry, it's massive. Because to even hire a 40-foot container in those days, $4,000, today it's $12,000. And so that is having huge impact on the world inflation that we're all talking about. Because the shipping companies determine where ship goes, determine how they move, and then they are making so much value. And the first 4 top shipping companies in the world are in Europe. So that's a massive competition we are going to enter into. Now the question is, what technology are we bringing in? And that was why I was so enthused with what Mama Julie Coker said 2 days ago. That it may be too late for us to build boats, but at least we can take our music and go and sell abroad. They can't run away from that. You see, because that is, for me, wisdom from a sage. When you are looking at this industry, it's going to require a lot of massive investment. We don't have the technology. Are we going to build a junior partner in this arrangement? What are we really thinking to do around this area? Yes, you look at it, Singapore is making so much from airline. United Arab Emirates making so much from airline. Even small Ethiopia is making so much from the airline. But you need to go and see what they are doing and find that the level of patriotism and nationalism that drives this national project, do we have it currently at home? And this is where the National Orientation Agency need to wake up, and so that we can be singing the song of being Nigerians. Even these issues we talk about, issues of security, they are also issues that we need to talk about, that everybody need to be able to hold up his children. I said it in one occasion, and I said, look at it, in 2022 alone, we spent over 7 trillion to fight insecurity in Nigeria. Now, if you put that figure together, it can build roads, it can build industries. Now, who are we fighting? We are fighting our children. So we should remove pressure from government. And even parents should begin to take hold of their homes. And people become patriotic and put their nation first. Now, all these things will go. And I think the National Orientation Agency need to really do more in terms of reaching out to the heart and the soul of Nigerians.
I think they will need to do a lot of work to be able to get into the heart and soul of Nigerians, because where you have poverty as the base of a lot of things, and it's like survival instinct, and because of the wrong upbringing that some people have had, so it's the end justifies the means at what they see being projected. They see those who are supposed to be the models, the role models. I'm talking about those in position of authority, and they see how people get away with embezzling, and they're giving more titles and titles. So they feel, let's take our pound of flesh, and taking pound of flesh could mean get it from anybody. So it's going to be a lot of work. How effective that message or those jingles are going to be, I really cannot tell.
For me, coming back to the issue of the national shipping line, I do always ask this question: do Nigeria learn from history? You know, if we've had something like this in the past, like you said, what went wrong? What are the lessons? And for me, strongly, I feel this shouldn't be the priority for the minister. You know, it should look at how to upgrade infrastructure when it comes to that sector. You know, if you look at the state of the ports and seaports in Nigeria, go to Apapa, go to Tinkan, you know, this technology, they are obsolete. And I strongly feel, even if you have the shipping line, you're still going to rely on this equipment, this old equipment.
Infrastructure.
And that's why, for me, I think its priority should be how to upgrade this equipment. You see people, you know, patronizing neighboring ports because they are cheaper, you know, because of the technology. Today you hear that server is down. You want to do cargo clearance, something that should take 48 hours is taking you weeks, it's taking, you know, and then the cost of demurrage is running for the business owner. These are things, you know, the bottleneck, the inefficiency at the port, whereby you want to do businesses and then you can't just do it efficiently. I think these are things the minister should focus on rather than looking at, you know, the national shipping line, because it's a matter of time you come back to these realities which is still going to face us. But anyway, let's leave it at the desk of the minister to see what is going to come up with in few weeks or in few months.
All right.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next story, which has to do with the school feeding program. This time around, the federal government is urging local government authorities to actively participate and support the implementation of the school feeding programs in their regions. We all agree that there's no policy that will succeed if the people involved, you know, are not being carried along. So this time around, the federal government is asking for a synergy between the federal level and the local authorities to help promote this initiative, school feeding program. The question is, even the school feeding program, how successful has it been? Has it been, since it has been started? How many students have been fed? How sustainable is this? And then have you seen instances where, this is being carried out the way it ought to be carried out? These are issues we even need to talk about. Let me start with you, Daoza. The school feeding programs.
Well, I think there's some success stories around it. And I think for me, really, it should be a welcoming development if the local governments really can participate in this enterprise. Because what really this will mean is not for us to be importing rice or beans from somewhere. It's actually that the children are fed with agricultural products that are produced from their environment. Every locality has the kind of crops that are unique to them. And so what this was supposed to do was to create a whole lot of entrepreneurial activity around both agric value chain. So some people are producing in the farm. Then, of course, the people who are supplying food to the school take it off them. That creates a lot of economy. So the farmers are guaranteed of off-takers of whatever thing they produce. And then, of course, those who are the off-takers also know that there's a ready market for them in the children that are going to be fed. Now, this is what the design is all around, is to create an economy. Now, if the local government invests in some of all these things, what it will do is that you really will create a people who are empowered to a large extent, that they are now productive themselves, and then they are able to pay tax. And then that incentive takes a lot of children who are not able to even have good meal, to have access to good meal at least once in a day as they go to school and they eat healthy food. So, but the extent to which this supervision is done is another thing, and that's why we're looking at it from what federal government has done. It may not look as if it is having impact because the local authority that are closer to the people are not participating effectively in this program. Now, if they participate, people will feel more of the impact. If they even can key into the program to understand what benefit this will serve to people in the agricultural value chain. So it's not just one person that is benefiting. The entire garment on that chain is having something to gain from it. And the children themselves are better off having at least one good meal that is balanced to ensure that they are able to think and reason and do the rigor of academics. This is important, and I think it's something that should be really encouraged. Some nations have done it successfully. India is doing excellently well in that regard, and I think we can do it because God has actually blessed us with things in nature that will make food not to be too expensive. But unfortunately, dollar is also determining how much of these things that are produced locally are sold.
I want to start from what you said about the meal being a balanced diet. Well, from what I have seen, from pictures, from videos of the school feeding being done, the food being given to the children, many times it doesn't look like the food.
The diet is balanced.
The diet is balanced. So I think parents are the best people to feed their children rather than empowering, because people, yes, it also supports some economy. Those who are caterers are benefiting from it because they have to cook for them. But if you want to use local food in that area, well, you still need to consider that for children, rice is a staple food in Nigeria. Children naturally like rice. A lot of children hardly get tired of rice. So it's like what they would also like to eat almost on a daily. That's part of the thing that they're looking at. But beyond those things, I am thinking that if the money being channeled into the school feeding program can be channeled into agriculture, not subsistence, not given to one farmer to feed for his to farm for his house. Mechanized farming being done at the local government level, local governments having even farms and having people employed, because the whole genesis of this starts from food scarcity. It starts from food being out of the reach of a lot of parents. Otherwise, they should be able to provide good food for their children. I think that is the more sustainable route to go, because You give them food once. Okay, let's even assume it's a balanced diet. So what happens the rest of the day?
No. You see, what it is that at least they have one good meal a day. One good meal a day. And it's enough, really, to create the necessary glucose that a child needs to be able to do the recall of academics. That's the point. But you see, what is here is that you're looking at it that a whole lot of people, children who are coming to school, they are very hungry, their parents cannot afford it. So what government is doing is creating an economy. That's the way you have to look at it. Growing up as a child, maybe we eat rice in 3 major occasions: during Christmas, during Independence Day, and during our harvest. So those 3 occasions, you may have the privilege to eat rice. Every other day, you eat all manners of meal. I see my mother make cornmeal in different ways. And some of them even look like rice, and they make stew on it. And the last time I was in Kigali, and I said, oh, I saw this cornmeal. I said, yeah, my mother used to cook this thing when I was quite young. So there's a whole lot we can do creatively with products that are made from our soil. There are plenty of arable land, vegetables that are grown here. We have one small portion of protein added to it. So this is what is supposed to be created. Now, from Femi's village, they eat pounded yam 3 times in a day.
Yes.
And when you are passing through that neighborhood, you are hearing that pounding. So this is how we all grew up. We are not used to eating rice like that. And I think that is actually what is putting pressure on the price of rice, because the common law of demand and supply that people are complaining about. There are things that are local to us that our parents ate and they were living healthy and they live longer life than we are. So this for me is where the real narrative is. For me, school feeding program is not a bad idea, but it should be handled well, such that the caterers are supervised to be sure that the meal that are given to the children are balanced diet at least once in a day. And then, of course, that it's not costing so much, because the ingredients and the condiments are found within the locality. And then, of course, children should have a good ration. That even if it is that one meal they eat, going to bed in a day should be sufficient for them.
Right.
That point you made about supervision, it's where the problem is. How sustainable is that? For how long will they be supervised?
Well, I strongly...
Those are the troubles.
I strongly believe that Nigeria, as a country, we are not bereft of good ideas. It's just the implementation. And, you know, for the school feeding program, it's a good one. You agree with me that the hungry man, you know, is an angry man. There's poverty in the land.
I never said it was not a good problem.
One of the things,
you
know, this will also achieve is to serve as incentives to motivate the students to come to school. Because some of them, you know, if they're not eating, they're hungry, you know, that may be another issue for them. But now when they know that you're coming to school, you're going to have a meal per day. It could also serve as incentive, apart from the fact that it's going to create jobs. Well, my concern, like you're trying to point across, is the area of supervision, which I feel this should not be another tool for politicians to take over or hijack it for political reasons, even at the local level. If you have the head of the local authority or the chairman, not that it's going to take over and then allocate these resources to his family and friends. We don't want to see that kind of situation. If the initiative or the aim is to encourage these people, you know, to ensure that you kick out poverty in the land and to also create an avenue for these people to have balanced diet, it's a good one. But like you said, it's a supervision, how we implement our ideas, which are the issues.
Ordinarily, it is good, but the supervision,
the implementation,
that's where the problem is. So that's why I don't think it is sustainable.
Yeah, but I think it speaks to who we are as a people, ethics and values that are actually missing. That people who seize this opportunity are supposed to be leveraging it and blessing and thanking God for opening this door, rather than take advantage of the people only for their private benefits. And I think on this stage, on this morning, we speak to every Nigerian: have value for life and have regard for the next person who is close to you, because you really cannot tell what that child can become.